We're here on a couple of motions filed by the intervenor. We have a motion to deem admissions admitted and a motion to stop the mother's periods of access. Ms. Wiggins is with us for the department. Mr. Ingram is with us representing the child. Mr. Michelson is with us representing the father. Mr. Massey, who I think I show he's still incarcerated. He's not.
He is, Judge.
Okay. Ms. Kopp is with us representing the intervenor, Joseph Massey. Ms. Kopp, is that your client with you?
Yes, Judge.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Michelson, I've said, is representing the father, and Ms. Grant is with us representing the mother, Ms. Little. Ms. Grant, I don't have her in my waiting room. Were you expecting her?
I was, Your Honor, but I'm ready.
Okay. Mr. Michelson, if he fell off, he's back in the waiting room. Let me get him in.
Judge, is my worker in the
Tamara?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, ma'am, she is. I'll get her in.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Okay, Mr. Michelson's still trying to join. While I show he's in, and then I show he's joining in the waiting room. Mr. Michelson, do you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can.
Okay, you're in my waiting room trying to join the two. You have one on video and one on phone?
Yes, I was trying both phones to see which one would connect, so I'm not sure how to disconnect the other one.
That's all right. Doesn't bother me where it is. Okay. Then that's everybody accounted for. No one else in the waiting room. Ms. Kopp, these are your motions. Let's take what I consider to be the easy one first. The motion to deem the admissions admitted.
Yes, Judge. I think that's also the easy one. I would ask that the court take judicial notice of the court's file.
So noted. I noted that there were no responses to your admissions.
Correct.
Your Honor, the mother does not object to the admissions.
Okay. All right. So basically, Ms. Grant, basically what you're telling me is by law they're deemed admitted, and your client would have to show cause why I should not allow them to automatically be deemed admitted without a court proceeding. So you don't have anything you have nothing to show cause why I shouldn't do that.
No, Your Honor. The only one we struggled with was the last one, and it was the sentence is an incomplete sentence. So I don't think it admits to anything necessarily, but that Ms. Kopp can address that at the point she feels she would need to. And so
yeah, let me get there.
I think they're attached to my motion, Judge.
Yeah.
We think we could assume, Your Honor, what was meant, but it
looks like I did leave out the word you.
Yeah, and we made the assumption that we considered it typographical, Judge.
Yeah, I did too. So that having been pointed out, then if you have no evidence as to good show cause as to why I shouldn't deem them admitted, then I will grant that motion and deem all the admissions to have been admitted. So we'll take care of that one. Okay, then let's move on to the motion to stop respondents' periods of access. Ms. Kopp, do you have any evidence you want to present or just argument?
Judge, I would like to briefly call Tamara Martinez. Okay. Ms. Martinez, part of what led to removal in this case was mother's cocaine use. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And mother was placed on probation for injury to a child due to one of the children testing positive for cocaine. Is that correct?
Objection has to be personal knowledge.
Overruled. You can answer, Ms. Martinez.
Yes, that's correct.
How long ago, if you remember, was the child removed from mother?
I think it's been almost a year.
We are set for a final jury trial, correct?
Yes.
And do you know the date of that jury trial?
June 3rd.
And did mother recently do a hair follicle exam?
Yes, she did.
Did you have any concerns regarding that hair follicle exam?
The hair follicle came back positive.
Objection as to any admission of results of drug testing, Your Honor.
Are they on file?
They are on file, Judge, and a business records affidavit was properly filed by the department with the drug test as well as the forensic drug testing custody and control form.
Right.
For the drug test, The drug test results under business records affidavit are still subject to the hearsay objection. The drug test method used must be proved up, the circumstances of preparation and proper foundation must be laid for chain of custody in order for the business records affidavit to stand.
And
Alright.
the
That'll be overruled if they've been on file. If they've been on file with the business records affidavit for the subsequent amount of time, then that will be overruled. So, Ms.
And Your Honor,
Martinez,
I must be missing that business records affidavit. I'm not seeing it in what I
it
have.
was filed 5/1/2024 by the department.
okay, let's move on.
Ms. Martinez, you stated that mother tested positive for cocaine,
Yes, ma'am.
and does that cause you concerns?
Yes, it does.
And what concerns are those?
It's a concern that mom has relapsed.
Is mother going to be asked to do new services at this time?
Yes, she is. I'm working on creating a new family plan to go over with her.
And do you believe at this time that it would be safe for mother to have unsupervised access to the child?
Not unsupervised, no.
Do you have concerns about the effect that seeing the mother for 3 weeks would have on this child if the rights are terminated at the jury trial?
I don't, without having visits, I don't know what the effect on that child would be.
And do you remember the last time mother saw this child at all?
No,
If I told you it was in June of last year, would you have reason to say that was incorrect?
no,
And if I told you that this court allowed her to recommence visits in October of last year, would you have reason to believe that was incorrect?
no,
Has, in your time on the case, has mother set up visits?
Objection, Your Honor. The mother is ordered visits only under therapist recommendations and can't set visits up herself.
Sustained.
To your knowledge, have we been here on a court hearing asking to modify any custody arrangements to allow mother access to the child?
I'm sorry, I cut up. What?
Sorry. To your knowledge, have we been here in front of Judge Graham asking to modify any provisions to allow mother access to the child?
For today's court hearing?
Other than today?
Not that I recall.
Pass the witness.
Ms. Wiggins,
What is the department's recommendation for visitation?
At this time, we have no reason not to allow mom therapeutic visits.
Pass the witness, Judge.
all right. Ms. Grant,
Has the child recently requested visits with the mother?
Objection calls for hearsay.
overruled.
Yes, she's asked me multiple times to see her mom.
Has the mother, since she took the hair follicle, tested for you again?
Yes, ma'am.
What method of testing has she tested for since the hair follicle was taken?
This month on May 9th, I did a oral swab and I took her to UA.
Did you have any concerns following those two tests?
Both of those tests were negative.
Pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Michelson,
No questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Ingram,
Tamara, has Dolores Hinders expressed a willingness to conduct the therapeutic visits if the court allows?
Yes, sir.
Pass the witness.
all right. Anyone have further questions for Ms. Martinez?
No, Judge.
No, Judge.
Ms. Kopp, any other witnesses?
No other witnesses, Judge, just argument when allowed.
All right, thank you. Ms. Wiggins, any witnesses?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Grant,
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Michelson,
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Ingram,
No witnesses.
Mr. Ingram, recommendations?
Yes, sir. I understand Ms. Kopp's arguments. A short time before the final hearing's coming up, we've got the drug test, but Aurora is adamant to me that she would like to see her mother. It's been almost a year since she's been able to see her mother, and under the circumstances, I think of therapeutic visits at this time are in her best interest.
Okay. Ms. Kopp, you said you had some argument?
Yes, Judge. At this time, we are asking that the periods of access stop. We understand that Aurora has asked for those visits, but we're in a situation where mother has not changed the behavior from the removal. We have a jury trial in 3 weeks where there is the potential that mother's rights will be terminated. We do not believe that it's in this child's best interest to have maybe 3 hours of visits to kind of, maybe give her hope that mom might be getting herself together. And then after termination to end that. As you know, the court can't give her post-termination contact once that termination is done, and the jury also can't give her post-termination contact. And so if we go to a jury trial, her rights are terminated, then those therapeutic visits stop. And we don't believe that's in the best interest of the child. We believe that would cause more harm than good. If this was a situation where mother had consistently been seeing this child since removal, or at the very least since her bond restriction got lifted in October, we might be in a different situation. If we were in a situation, there's been some testimony that the therapist wasn't able to recommend, a motion could have been filed asking for this court to do something different. Nothing was done. So this mother has not seen the child for almost a year, and we're here today trying to protect the child to keep her from having to go through the pain of that removal again if termination is granted here in 3 weeks.
Okay. All right. Excuse me. All right. My previous order, I noticed I did order therapeutic visits between the child and the mother. I'm going to modify that slightly. I'm going to order that the mother's visitation will be as recommended by Aurora's therapist as of today.
Judge, the problem with that is that Ms. Henders cannot make a recommendation, and that's part of why, that's part of the problem. Per her code of ethics, she cannot make a recommendation for possession and access.
I thought I heard testimony that she was recommending therapeutic visits.
No, just that she agreed to do therapeutic visits.
Okay.
Your Honor, the mother is requesting that we not preemptively prevent her from seeing the child when it's the child's wishes to see her. That would be against the that'd be against the even the Constitution of the United States, Your Honor, that parental rights are a given right until terminated by a court of law. This mother's not been terminated by a court of law, and Ms. Kopp is effectively arguing against Adam's recommendation that it would be.
All right. I'm going to deny that motion. I'm going to leave my current order in place that therapeutic visits will take place between the child and the mother. This court routinely grants goodbye visits, and if the mother's rights are terminated here in a couple of 2 or 3 weeks, then we'll be ahead of the curve on the goodbye visit. So that motion will be denied. So, okay, that was our only two. Let me check our notes. Yeah, we don't need to treat this as a permanency hearing. We've covered that in March. So, all right, that will conclude this case. We'll stand in recess for those of you involved to participate. Let me see. Mr. Alvey's with us for the department. Ms. Grant is with us representing the child. Ms. Lucero is with us representing the mother. Ms. Howard, who is with us. That accounts for all the parties. I have Breanne Kano in the waiting room. Is that your witness?
She is my witness, Your Honor. Before I call her, I would ask that you allow me and Ms. Lucero and Ms. Grant an opportunity to talk.
Okay. I will open up that breakout room here in just a second. And I'm gonna join you guys for just a second. Ms. Grant, I've got an update on our case from yesterday that I think you need to know about. So,
And Judge, we're back.
all right. Are we ready to proceed?
We are, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, Mr. Alvey, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. In lieu of testimony, I would like to announce that the parties have reached an agreement. Ms. Howard will agree to work services. Specifically, she will complete an infant and toddler parenting class, a good judgment and decision-making class, do some individual counseling, do a drug assessment to determine if there's any dependency issues, agree to random drug screening, including a hair follicle and UA drug screen today, allow access for Ms. Grant and St. Francis Ministries and department workers to her home to assess how she's doing on her services.
All right. All right, Ms. Lucero, is this your client's agreement?
Yes, Your Honor, I spoke with Ms. Howard and she is in agreement to work those services. And also I advised her that the department would work with her to get those set up and cover the cost of the same.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Grant, are you in agreement?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Abbey, did you say you're asking for both hair strand and UA?
We would like baselines on both of those today, Your Honor, if possible.
Okay. Where would she, so I can be sure we get it in the order, where would she go to drug test?
I assume Pampa, Your Honor. I believe she resides in Wheeler, so I think Pampa would be the closest.
And is that still next step? No, it's something new, isn't it?
Prestige, Your Honor.
Prestige, okay.
Brian, is that correct? That we'd send her to Pampa?
No, she's been screening in Wellington and Rolling Plains Counseling and Wellness Center.
Okay. Ms. Howard, if you'd unmute, please. If you're on a phone, you can hit *6.
Okay.
Okay. Do you have transportation to get to your drug screen?
Yes, ma'am. I mean, yes, sir. Sorry. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay, then I will approve the agreement reached by the parties. I will order Ms. Howard to work the services as set out in the department's petition and as announced by Mr. Albee today. And I will order that Ms. Howard both hair strand and UA drug screen by 4 p.m. today at Rolling Plains. Okay. That will conclude this hearing. We'll stand in recess. Thank you all for working that out in order to participate. Mr. Albee is with us for the department. Ms. Kincaid is with us representing the children. Mr. Adams is with us representing the mother, Ms. Young, who is with us. And Mr. Pertle is with us representing the father, Mr. Tollison. I don't know, he's not listed by name unless he happens to be with Ms. Young.
I would doubt that he's appearing, Your Honor.
Okay. And actually, I'm not seeing Miss Young. I let her in. We'll give it a minute. Maybe she fell out for some reason. All right. It looks like she is now with us. She's listed as Destiny Tollison rather than Young, but I'm sure that's her. All right, then. Mr. Tollison is still not with us. This case was set for 10:30. It's 10:35. We will proceed in his absence. Mr. Albee, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would call.
Oh, hang on. I'm sorry. Looks like he is with Miss. Is it Miss Young or Miss Tollison? If you'd unmute and tell me.
It's Tollison.
And is that your legal name?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll make a note to change that because we've showed you as Young. Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Albee.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would call Mr. Keegan Ramirez. And Destiny was ordered to work services. Has she completed any of the services that she was ordered to work at this time?
No, sir.
Has she started any of the services that was ordered to work at this time?
No, sir.
Peyton Tollison was also ordered to work services. Has he started any of the services that he was ordered to work?
He was initially enrolled in the Padre program, but since April 12th to just today, he's been discharged from the Padre program because they couldn't get in touch with him.
Were you able, or have you been able to have contact with Destiny and Peyton to develop a new service plan?
Yes, at the beginning of this case when we developed the service plan together.
Okay. And then recently, just as a reminder, there were some issues with some additional domestic violence. Ms. Tollison went into the shelter in Gray County, and now she's out of the shelter. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And has she agreed to a new safety plan?
Yes, sir.
And what is that safety plan?
The safety plan states that she agrees to be protective over her children and not allow Peyton Tollison around her 3 children until further notice from the department. Destiny agrees that Peyton Tollison's contact will be supervised at the CPS office in Pampa, Texas by DFPS personnel until further notice from the department. Destiny Young agrees that if Peyton Tollison is to show up around her and the children, to have an approved supervising party by the department to supervise their contact. Peyton Tollison agrees to have supervised visits at the CPS office in Pampa, Texas by DFPS personnel until further notice from the department. And then Destiny Young will contact the department immediately if one of them no longer wishes to keep this safety plan in place.
And that safety plan was just signed by Peyton and Destiny within the last few days.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And in the meantime, what we're asking is that they will continue to work services so that we can alleviate the need for that safety plan.
Yes, sir.
Are there any additional services at this time that Ms. Tollison or Mr. Tollison need to be ordered to work?
No, sir.
They just need to work the services that were previously ordered.
Yes, sir.
The children safe and appropriate at this time?
Yes, sir.
And they're doing well?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Ramirez. I'll pass it with Ms. Sharon.
Right. Mr. Ramirez, the children are all with mother?
Yes, sir.
So I take it from what you said about the safety plan, the father is not living with the mother and the children?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right, Mr. Adams.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Ramirez, where is Miss Tollison, Destiny Tollison, living?
She's residing with her sister there in Pampa, Texas.
Okay, and where is Mr. Tollison living?
He just returned back from Amarillo and is living in the current address, their previous home.
Their previous home, but they're not living together.
Correct.
And has Destiny showed a willingness to cooperate with the department?
Yes, sir.
And what are the issues with them starting their services? Do you have an idea of what the problem is?
I honestly don't have any idea. They both have had the safety plan and I've texted them phone numbers. Destiny has had the numbers to at least start her counseling.
Okay. And you don't know if she's set that up yet?
No, sir. I haven't gotten any email confirmations from the therapist.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Pertle.
No questions.
Ms. Kincaid?
No questions, Your Honor.
All right. Anyone else have anything further for Mr. Ramirez?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Albee, any other witnesses?
No, Your Honor. I'll rest.
Thank you. Mr. Adams, any witnesses?
I'd like to call Destiny Tollison.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor. Destiny, have you attempted to contact counseling services for your services?
No, I'm doing that today. I was
Okay.
going to do it yesterday, but I got busy with the kids.
And the kids are living with you, correct?
Yes, sir.
And how is that going?
It's good. We take them to school and then I get them and we just play at my sister's.
What services are you supposed to be involved in right now?
All I remember is counseling and the Padre program. And I was told the Padre program would contact me and I haven't gotten anything from them yet.
But you're willing to work the services that they're asking you to work?
Yes, sir.
Oh, the question I wanted to ask is, do you have a copy of the service plan? A paper copy?
Of the safety plan or the service plan?
Service plan. The service you're asking.
I don't think I do. I'd have to go through my paperwork. I'm not sure.
Could you look for that and talk to your caseworker and make sure that you have everything that you need?
Yes, sir.
Okay. It's important that do you know that it's important that you work the services that they're asking you to work?
Yes, sir, I do.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Allen, any questions?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Pertle?
Yes, Judge, I'd like to call my client Peyton Tollison.
Well, do you have any questions for Ms. Tollison?
Oh, no questions, Judge.
Ms. Kincaid?
Briefly, judges, Mr. Tollison there with you?
Yes, I'm at my house. I talked to my caseworker and he said I could be here as long as I didn't have the kids. So while they're at school, I come and help him tidy up the house and stuff.
Okay, but you're not living there?
No, ma'am. I live with my sister.
Okay, I'll pass witness.
Okay. Anyone else have further questions for Ms. Tollison? All right, then, Mr. Pertle, any witnesses?
I'd like to call my client, Peyton Tollison. Thank you, Judge. Mr. Tollison, are you the father of the children involved in this lawsuit?
Bellamy, biological father, the other two, no. So
with your child, are you willing to work services that CPS wants you to do?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you understand to remain in a program like Padre, you have to always update them with your current address and phone number.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And along with that, you need to also always update me with your address and phone number too. And you understand that?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you. I pass the witness.
Mr. Albee?
No questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Adams?
Oh, no questions, Your Honor. Sorry.
Ms. Kincaid?
No questions, Your Honor.
All right. All right, then, Ms. Kincaid, did you have any witnesses?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Kincaid, recommendations?
Just continue working, or begin working services and follow the new safety plan.
Okay. All right, then. I will order both parents to continue working the services contained in their service plans as amended in the safety plan. Mr. Albee, would you like a compliance hearing?
Yes, sir. And again, it's 60 days if we have time to do that.
Okay, I'll go ahead and set this one also as the last one. I'll set the next compliance hearing for July 17th, 2024. Mr. and Ms. Tollison, that's compliance hearing will be just like today. It's just to see how you're progressing on your services. It will be by Zoom, just like today's hearing was. So y'all can go on the court's online docket or get with your attorneys a day or two in advance of July 17th to know exactly what time we'll have that here. We're here on a compliance hearing following order to participate. Mr. Albee's with us for the department. Ms. Lucero is covering for Mr. Adams, representing the mother, Ms. Tollison, who's with us. Mr. Pertle is not with us, nor is his client, Mr. Tollison. This case was set for 9:30. It's now 9:35. We'll proceed in his absence. I have Michael Colwell in the waiting room.
You don't have Keegan Ramirez?
I don't have him.
Okay, I've got noticed that Ms. Jeffcott's going to testify this morning.
Okay. Okay. All right, then. As I said, this case was set for 9:30. It's 9:35. We'll proceed in Mr. Tollison and Mr. Pertle's absence. Mr. Albee, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would call Megan Jackson, Supervisor. You get regular updates from Mr. Ramirez about the status of this case, and you are familiar with what Ms. Tollison and Mr. Tollison have been doing.
Yes.
All right. Specifically, there are 3 children who we're trying to protect in this case.
Yes.
Their mother is Destiny Tollison.
Yes.
And she was ordered to work services. Has she been working the services that she was ordered to work?
Yes, she has. She's been very cooperative with the department, keeps in contact with the department. She is currently in counseling and the Padre program for parenting.
Are there any specific programs that or services that she has completed at this time?
Nothing is fully completed, but we're very close.
Are there any specific services that have not been ordered that Ms. Tollison would benefit from that the court needs to order today?
No, sir.
But we do want to continue the case so that we can continue to offer these services for Ms. Tollison and she can finish the ones that she has started.
Yes.
Peyton Tollison is the father to the youngest of these children. He was also ordered to work services.
Yes.
And has he been cooperating in working the services that he was ordered to work?
He has not been cooperative since mid-June when he was arrested.
And do you know what he was arrested for?
Criminal mischief. He was, Ms. Tollison had ended her relationship with him and he began to destroy their property, their rent home, as well as her vehicle.
Do you know if he is still currently incarcerated?
He is not incarcerated, but we do not know his exact location.
Before the June incident, did he complete any of the services that he was?
No, he had not completed. Sorry, no, he had not completed anything.
In the meantime, has your department, and specifically Mr. Ramirez, discussed with Ms. Tollison protecting these children?
Yes.
And has she been protective against Mr. Tollison?
Yes, she has since that incident.
Today, are you asking that the case continue and that Mr. Tollison continue to be ordered to work the services even though he's not complying at this time?
Yes, sir.
Are we also requesting that he UA and hair strand or hair follicle drug screen today?
Yes.
And they live in Pampa?
Ms. Tollison resides in Pampa. It is believed Mr. Tollison is in Miami. That's the last known possible place that he could be.
But if he was to be ordered to drug screen, it would be in Pampa.
Yes.
And is that where do you drug screen in Pampa these days?
It's called Prestige.
So as far as the children are concerned, how are they doing?
The children are doing well. They continue to attend daycare. The daycare does not have any concerns at this time. They do report that the children are cleaner. Their overall cleanliness is better than it has been in the past.
No concerns that the department has concerning these children at this time?
No, sir.
Are you then asking that the court continue this order for both parents and that we reschedule just before the dismissal date for a final hearing?
Yes.
That's what you're
Thank you, Ms. Lucero.
Thank you. Ms. Jepcott, do you know how many counseling sessions Ms. Tollison has completed? Or how many she lacks?
I don't know off the top of my head. I would have to look through
No, that's
the
fine.
records.
That's fine. But you stated that she's working on finishing up her counseling and parenting?
That's my understanding, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And again, no concerns regarding her care of the children. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Kincaid.
No questions, Your Honor.
All right. Anyone else have anything further for Ms. Jepcott? No? Mr. Albee, any other witnesses?
No, Your Honor, I rest.
All right. Ms. Lucero, any witnesses?
No witnesses, Your Honor. I know that Mr. Adams advised that he's hopeful that, Ms. Tollison is doing well and that this case can be closed out, at the next hearing.
All right. Thank you. All right. Ms. Kincaid, any witnesses?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Kincaid, recommendations?
Just continue working. It sounds like mom's making good progress, and just remain protective of the children from Mr. Tollison.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right, then. I will order both parents to continue working the services as previously ordered. I will order Mr. Tollison to both hair strand and UA drug screen by 4 p.m. today at Prestige in Pampa. I will set a compliance hearing for September 4th, 2024. That will be by Zoom like today's hearing, so parties and attorneys can go on the court's online docket a day or two in advance of September 4th to see exactly what time we'll have that hearing. Okay, that will conclude this hearing. For those of you involved, I'll be back at 10 o'clock. Mr. Albee is with us for the department. Casa is with us. Mr. Adams is with us representing the child. Ms. Archer is with us representing the father, Mr. Morton, who is not with us and not in the waiting room. Ms. Kincaid is with us representing the mother, Ms. Crossman, who I show is incarcerated in TDCJ. So she is not with us.
Your Honor.
Yes.
It's my understanding that she has been released, and she may be in a halfway house. I've tried to call. They said that she was released from that facility on May the 11th. I haven't had contact with her, but maybe the department has.
Okay. But we do know she's out of TDCJ.
We do know that, Your Honor.
Okay. Okay, she is not in the waiting room. I have Alicia Walker in the waiting room.
That's my witness, Your Honor.
Okay. I'm sorry, and Molly Crossman, who is a guardian, maybe she's the aunt. She is also with us. All right. No one in the waiting room. This case was set for 11 o'clock. It's now 11:05. We will proceed in Ms. Crossman and Mr. Morton's absence. Mr. Albee?
Thank you, Your Honor. I would call Miss Molly Crossman. Miss Crossman, you are the aunt to Mason, who is the child subject of our suit.
Yes.
And his mother, Betsy Crossman, is your sister?
Yes.
And Mason was residing with you when Betsy was put into TDC until the time the child was removed, correct?
I've had Mason long before that. I've had him since he was about 2 years old.
Okay.
But yeah, the whole time she's been in and out of prison, I've had him. Yes.
All right. And it's, well, first of all, are you aware that Betsy is no longer incarcerated?
Yeah, she got out last Thursday. She's in a mental hospital down in Austin. My sister Julie spoke with her yesterday.
Okay. Do you know the name of that hospital?
I have no idea. I don't talk to Betsy.
That's fine. We will find her, but you believe that she's currently in a hospital in Austin?
Yes.
Right. Thank you. Ms. Crossman, you're part of this case because Mason was in your care, and we've continued to give you notice, but my understanding is that you have no desire to have Mason returned to you.
No, sir, I can't control him.
Okay. And even if we were able to alleviate some of his behaviors, you do not want to be considered as a permanent placement for Mason at this time.
Not at this point in time. No, he's done a lot of damage, and I've tried everything that I can think of, and he's progressively gotten worse as he gets older.
Okay. And then you would have no objections if we asked the court to dismiss you from our lawsuit?
No.
Thank you, Ms. Crossman. I'll pass with you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Kincaid.
No questions.
Ms. Archer.
Ms. Crossman, do you know the whereabouts of Austin Morton at this time?
Last I heard, he's over on Kentucky Street in a trailer park here in Pampa.
Do you have a phone number or anything like that for him?
I have nothing. I haven't spoke to that guy in 10 years, maybe longer.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions.
Mr. Adams.
No questions, Your Honor.
All right. All right, Mr. Alvey, other witnesses?
I would call Miss Alicia Walker, Your Honor. Where
Okay.
is he currently placed?
He is in an RTC right now in Houston.
And how's he doing in that placement?
He's actually doing really well. He says that he loves it there. He loves his school. Everybody's really nice to him. So far he's done really well.
How long has he been in that current placement?
Since April 5th.
And are they currently making sure that he attends all of his medical, dental, and mental health appointments?
Yes, they are on top of everything.
His mother is Betsy Crossman?
Yes.
And you were aware that she was released from TDC?
Yes.
And have you attempted to contact her since her release?
Yes. This past Monday, Molly gave me, well, at first I heard that Molly told me that she was in a halfway house, and she gave me the number to that halfway house. And I called the halfway house and they said that she wasn't there anymore. And so I got in contact with Julie, and Julie said as of Monday, she didn't know where Betsy was. But I guess as of yesterday, we found out that Betsy's in a mental hospital.
And you will do what you can to make contact with Betsy as soon as we can?
Yes, I will.
And it's your understanding from correspondence that you've had with Betsy that she wants to attempt to work some services and build a relationship with Mason?
Yes, from the letters that she's sent to me while she was in prison, that's what she told me.
But because she's been in prison, it's been difficult to offer her any services
Right.
and for her to do anything at this time.
Right.
And we don't know any of the particulars as to why she's currently in a hospital in Austin.
Yes, I have no idea.
So would you agree with me that it would not be safe to return Mason to Betsy at this time?
Yes.
And it would be contrary to Mason's general welfare to do that?
Yes.
Molly, who was placement for Mason, or she had custody and possession of Mason at the time that we started our case, has admitted to us that she doesn't want to have Mason returned to her because of the behaviors that Mason's exhibited in the past.
Right.
And she says she doesn't have any objections to the case, to having her name and her person removed from this case. Does St. Francis Ministries have any objections to having Molly removed from this case?
No, we don't.
Austin Morton has been named as the alleged father, and originally he's complained that he wasn't the father, but we haven't been able to find him to do a paternity test. We haven't been able to find him to do anything, correct?
Correct.
Have you had any contact with Mr. Morton?
No, I haven't.
Molly just told us that the last she knew he lived in a trailer on Kentucky Street in Pampa. Is that new information that you were not aware of?
No, she told me this last month when I saw her last month. I haven't had time to go look yet, but I plan on doing that.
Okay. But since we don't know anything about Austin, we don't know where he's at, we don't have his environment, we don't know what his circumstances are, and because we have some question as to whether or not he's the father, it would not be safe to return Mason to Austin at this time.
Right.
And it would be contrary to Mason's general welfare to do so.
Yes.
So you're asking the court to continue the department as temporary managing conservator of Mason, and we leave Mason's current placement where he's at, where he's doing okay.
Yes.
And you believe that's in Mason's best interest?
Yes, I do.
Pass witness, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Kincaid.
Thank you, Your Honor. Whenever you locate Ms. Crossman, Betsy Crossman, that is, would you be willing to share her contact information with me?
Yes, I'll let you know.
Okay, thank you. I'll pass witness.
All right, thank you, Ms. Archer.
No questions.
All right, Mr. Adams.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Walker, do you know, does Molly Crossman have official guardianship papers related to Mason?
I am not sure.
Okay. So you don't know the legal status between Mason and Molly prior to Mason coming into the department's care?
Right.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, anybody have further questions for Ms. Walker? All right, then, Ms. Walker, I show that Mason is on 2 psychotropic medications for ADHD and mood. Has he expressed any concerns about his medication?
No.
Has he stated that they help him, or has he just not said anything about them?
He's just not said anything.
Okay, and he's being seen at least every 30 days concerning those medications?
Yes, he is.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, then, Mr. Alvey, anything further from the department?
Not from Ms. Walker, Your Honor. Because of Mr. Adams' questions, I would recall Ms. Crossman briefly.
Okay, Ms. Crossman, you're still under oath, so Mr. Alvey, you may proceed.
Ms. Crossman, did you go to court, and are there any court orders that put Mason in your care?
Yes, I have all the court papers. We went in 2012, I believe. I am the guardian of Mason and his sister Kinsey, but she's 19, so.
And is it a guardianship or is it a conservatorship? Do you know?
It says conservatorship on it.
All right. Thank you, Your Honor. That's all the questions I have, Your Honor.
All right. Anyone else have questions for Ms. Crossman? Mr. Alvey, now that we know that she actually has a legal standing, do you still want to try to remove her from this case?
I do, Your Honor. I think that it makes it easier for me, with her as being a conservator, to have her dismissed out of the case. We'll change that conservatorship when we finish our case.
Okay. All right. Ms. Crossman, that's still all right with you? Okay. All right, then. Okay, Mr. Alvey, anything further?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Kincaid, any witnesses?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Archer?
No witnesses, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Adams?
No witnesses, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Adams, recommendations?
Mason is doing much better in the placement that he's at right now. He enjoys school and he's enjoying a lot of the activities that he's involved in. I would recommend that that placement be approved and that the department remain temporary managing conservator.
All right, thank you. Cost, anything to add?
Nothing to add, Your Honor. We agree with Mr. Adams.
Okay. All right, I will continue the department's temporary managing conservator and continue Mason's current placement. I will order that Miss Molly Crossman is dismissed from this lawsuit. All right, we will have the final hearing in this case on July 17th, 2024. That will be by Zoom like today's hearing, so parties and attorneys can go on the court's online docket a day or so in advance to see what time we'll have that hearing. Ms. Archer, I guess technically I could go ahead and dismiss you from this case as he's asked for paternity testing and he hasn't done so, but I'm going to go ahead and have you attend the final hearing. If we still can't locate him, I think it'll just be cleaner if this goes up on appeal. So.
Okay, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you all. We will stand in recess for the department. Casa is with us. Mr. Michelson is with us representing the father, Mr. Herrera, who is with us. And Ms. Archer is with us representing the mother, Ms. Ramirez, who is with us. Mr. Barfield represents the child. He is not with us. I have Brandon Hernandez, Courtney Brown, Treason Pearson, and Haley Grissom in the waiting room.
Not sure about Miss Pearson, but the other three are going to be my witnesses, Your Honor.
Teresa and Pearson is my witness, Judge.
Okay.
Prior to calling any witnesses, we would offer up as petitioner's exhibit number 1, a certified copy of the original petition in this case with its accompanying affidavit.
Okay. All right. Objections?
No objection.
No objection. Petitioner's 1 is admitted.
I would call Miss Haley Grissom, Your Honor.
All righty.
Judge, before I begin, Brooks Barfield is the attorney ad litem. I anticipated him being present also. Have you had any word from him?
He's logging right now. I just talked to his paralegal.
He's what?
He's logging on right now.
Okay. We'll wait for him. This is not unusual. All right, Mr. Barfield's joined us. Mr. Alvey, you may proceed.
You're no longer a St. Francis Ministries permanency specialist, correct?
That's correct.
When did you become the permanency specialist that handled the case?
I was November 19th of 2023.
And were you the first permanency specialist for this case?
No, I wasn't.
Okay. But in November, you became the permanency specialist and you reviewed the file and you're aware of the history up until that point.
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, where was Caitlin Ramirez? First of all, for the record, Caitlin Ramirez is the mother to Emmeline, correct?
Yes.
Where was she at when you began working in this case?
She was incarcerated within TDCJ.
And do you know how long she had been incarcerated, either in TDCJ or in Gray County?
I don't know. I don't remember the exact date, but it was, I think the case began when she was incarcerated. So it would have been the whole length of the case, I believe.
And were you able to reach out to Ms. Ramirez and establish a service plan for her?
Yes. So when I took the case, she already had a service plan established by the previous worker. It did take me a little bit to be able to make contact with her, but I was able to have a phone conversation with her. She also had a courtesy worker that went over her service plan with her while I was the worker.
And were you able to communicate with her about services that she was able to complete while she was incarcerated?
Yes.
And was she able to complete any services for you when you were the specialist while she was incarcerated?
I did get a couple of certificates from Caitlin's attorney. I believe one was parenting and the other was something that was not on our service plan. I think it was a customer service representative course. So parenting would have been what she was able to do. I will add that she was in a pre-release program, and she said that she had completed some counseling in that. We just had not determined whether it was appropriate to meet our definition of counseling.
And you said that you took over the case in November of 2023. Is that correct?
Yes.
And when did you no longer become a part of this case?
My last day with St. Francis was March 22nd of this year.
And was Miss Ramirez still incarcerated as far as you know when you left the case?
When I left the case, I had been able to speak to her in I guess it would have been mid-March, early to mid-March. And she had a release date of the last few days of March. So she was still incarcerated at that point, and she was going to be released. She was waiting for a release date.
In your review of the file, was it your understanding that Emmeline was in her care at the time that the child was removed and placed into department's care?
From what I remember about reviewing the file, yes.
It has been determined that Nathan Herrera is the father to Emmeline. Were you involved in the case when Mr. Herrera had a genetic test done?
No.
So he was already adjudicated as a father when you took over the case?
Yes, sir.
And were you aware, or was Emmeline in his care when you took over the case?
Yes, she had been placed with him on July 7th of 23.
Was there a service plan that Mr. Herrera was working at the time that you were involved in this case?
Yes.
And are you familiar with the service plan that he was working in, with specifically the services he needed to be completing?
Yes.
What services did he complete while you were the service specialist?
He had already completed the services by the time I took over. The only thing that would have still been ongoing was random drug testing and stable employment and housing. Before I had come into the picture, I verified that he had completed individual counseling. The BIP program was on his service plan, but he did an intake and did not qualify, so he did not have to complete the BIP program. He did a parenting class, and he participated in visits with Carter until Carter was placed with him.
Emmeline goes by Carter, correct?
Yes, sir. Sorry. I'm just used to Carter.
I understand. And I just want to make sure that it's clear on the record that when we talk about Emmeline and Carter, that's the same child that's the subject of our suit.
Yes, sir.
All right. So during the time that you were the caseworker, the permanency specialist in this case, how often did you have contact with Mr. Herrera?
I was in the home to see him in person at least once a month. They had already taken it down from weekly visits to once a month by the time I became the worker. We had lots of phone calls and text messages, probably 3 to 5 times a week. We had contact with each other.
And during that whole time, did you have any concerns the way Mr. Herrera was taking care of Carter?
No.
Was Carter safe while she was in his care?
Yes.
Did Mr. Herrera make sure that Carter went to all of her medical, dental, and any mental health appointments that Carter had?
Medical, yes. There was some issues with scheduling dental. I can't answer as to why that was taking a long time to schedule or get her in. I just know that she didn't have a dental while I was, there was no record of her having a dental appointment while I was a caseworker.
Yeah, for the record, Carter's 3 years old.
Yes. Or 2 when I had the case.
Okay. And she turned 3 just recently, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
All right. But you were in the home with Mr. Herrera on a few occasions, and you had contact with him. And were there any concerns that were raised in any of that time with you?
No.
Did you have any? Did Mr. Herrera demonstrate any violent tendencies to you during the time that you were involved in the case?
No, sir.
Did Mr. Herrera ever show that he was had a propensity to violence towards Carter at any time?
Not at all.
When you left as the permanency specialist for Carter, do you know who became the permanency specialist for Carter?
Yes, this is my coworker, Courtney Brown.
And did you have conversations with Miss Brown to make sure that she was caught up and current on the things that were going on in Carter's life when you left?
Yes, we had what was called a transfer staffing where I gave her all the info she needed to take over the case.
Thank you. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Ms. Archer.
Okay, so were you number 2 of 4 caseworkers on this case?
So there would have been an investigator. If you're counting the investigator, I believe there was one permanency specialist before me, which was Summer Daniels, and then me, and then Courtney. I don't know if there was another permanency specialist between the investigator and Summer, but if you count the investigator, at least 4 caseworkers, yes.
And how long were you on the case?
From November 19th of 2023 until March 22nd of this year.
So did you ever get to see Caitlin interact with Carter?
No, I did not.
And do you know how long Caitlin and Carter were together before her incarceration? Or in other words, how old was Carter when Mom was incarcerated?
Oh, I would have to go back and look to be sure of that. I don't feel confident in that answer.
Okay. But Mom and Carter were together before the incarceration, is that correct?
Yes.
And so when this case was started, Carter was not in Mom's care.
Will you repeat that question? I'm sorry.
When this case started, Carter was not in Mom's care.
I believe when this case started, Carter was in her care. She had been incarcerated, I think, in Gray County Jail, and that's why the case started.
But there was no finding of abuse or neglect on Caitlin for Carter.
Objection, Your Honor. That'd be speculation from Miss Grissom, and it would be, well, speculation would be my objection, Your Honor.
Well, let me ask you this, Ms. Grissom. You've already testified that when you took over the case, you studied the records and all. Did you find any allegations against Ms. Ramirez for abuse of Carter?
This case started with a reason to believe for Mom, a neglectful supervision reason to believe in November of 2023.
Okay, Ms. Archer, go ahead.
Or the date may be wrong on what I'm looking at, but it did start with a reason to believe for neglectful supervision. I apologize.
But wasn't that on the babysitter that Carter was with at the time?
My information showed her as the perpetrator, Caitlin Ramirez as the perpetrator. So that was my understanding.
Okay. I thought Caitlin was in jail when this started. That's where I'm going with the testimony, Your Honor.
That's what my review of the report stated also.
And Caitlin, did she express a desire to you, Ms. Grissom, to do services, all she could to get her daughter back?
Yes.
Okay. And she did complete all she could while incarcerated, correct? That you know of?
That I know of, she did everything that was available to her while she was incarcerated.
I'll pass the witness, Judge.
Mr. Michelson?
Thank you, Your Honor. How old was Carter when Caitlin went to Gray County Jail?
I believe she was 1 year old, but I would have to review the court report. Sure.
Oh, okay, and how long was Caitlin in custody?
I don't know the date of incarceration, the beginning. I just know that she was incarcerated for the length of the case. So it should have been around November of 2022 to the end of March of 2024.
So, okay, so roughly 2 years? Close to
about
2
a year and a half, I think. About a year and a half.
Okay, year and a half. Okay, and during that period of time, did Caitlin have any visits with Carter?
No.
Okay, no phone visits, no virtual visits?
No, sir. Not that I'm aware of.
That's the witness.
Definitely Definitely not any since I became the caseworker, and I'm not aware of any happening before I was the caseworker.
Okay. Okay. Pass the witness, Your Honor.
Mr. Barfield?
No questions, Judge.
All right. Anybody have further questions for Ms. Grissom?
I do, Your Honor. I have one follow-up.
Okay.
Ms. Grissom, is it St. Francis policy to not let children have virtual visits when their parents are incarcerated?
That is the most common policy. It depends on the age of the child. Definitely for her age, we would not have done that, in my experience as a caseworker.
Thank you, Ms. Grissom. I have no further questions.
Anyone else? All right, then. Can Ms. Grissom be excused?
Please, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Grissom, I'll go ahead and remove you so you can go about your afternoon's business. Good to see you again, and we miss you.
Thank you. Miss y'all too.
All right, Mr. Albee, next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would call Miss Courtney Brown. How long have you been the permanency specialist for Carter?
Since Haley left, which was March 22nd of 2024.
And so just over 6 weeks.
Yes, sir.
And how often during that 6-week period have you had face-to-face contact with Carter?
Once a month is the face-to-face monthly requirement.
So have you had 2 or 3 face-to-face monthly?
2.
Okay. And were both of those while Carter was in care of Mr. Herrera?
Yes.
Were those face-to-face contacts with Carter in Mr. Herrera's home, or were they somewhere else?
They were in the home.
And based upon your face-to-face contact with Carter, how's she doing?
She's doing very well in the home. There were no concerns noted.
And are you aware if Mr. Herrera has been making sure that Carter attends all of her medical and dental appointments?
Yes, it was mentioned that the dental appointment had issues, but he did get that scheduled for, I believe it's the 27th of this month.
Do you know if there are, without going to the dentist, does Carter seem to have any dental issues just on the face of it?
Not to my knowledge, no.
And have you observed Carter and Mr. Herrera together and how they interact?
Yes, sir.
And tell the court what you've observed about their interactions.
They're appropriate. They have a good bond. He takes interest in what she's doing and what she likes. And I believe that Carter trusts him. It's very much a healthy parent-child relationship that I've witnessed.
You don't have, in your observations, you don't have any concerns about how Mr. Herrera is raising Carter at this time?
No, sir.
And did you have any concerns about Mr. Herrera's home at this time?
No, sir.
Is there anybody that lives in Mr. Herrera's home other than Mr. Herrera and Carter?
He has a girlfriend and then her son.
And have you observed the whole group together in Mr. Herrera's home?
I have not observed them all together, no.
Did you do some due diligence to make sure that there weren't any concerns with Mr. Herrera's girlfriend?
Yes, sir.
And did you come up with any on its face concerns?
No, sir. There have been no concerns that I've been told.
Do you know how old Mr. Herrera's girlfriend's son is?
5.
And do you know if there are any issues in the interactions between Carter and that child?
No, sir. They're bonded as well.
Do you know how long Mr. Herrera and his girlfriend and that has been a family unit in that home?
I am not sure. No, sir.
Do you know what her name is, the girlfriend's name?
Shada, I believe.
Do you know the last name?
Not offhand. No, sir.
Okay. Caitlin Ramirez during the time that you have been the permanency specialist, has been released from her incarceration?
Yes, sir. She was released that following week that I got assigned the case.
And have you had contact with her?
I have.
And did she reach out to you once she was released?
She did.
And has she attempted to begin and work her services as quickly as she can?
Yes, she has.
What services currently is she working for the department?
Her service plan was stable housing, employment, drug screening, RBT, parenting, a psychosocial, psychological, domestic violence support group, and individual counseling.
And I didn't catch all of those, but I'm going to try to get most of them. Okay.
Okay.
Does she have stable housing right now?
She does.
My understanding is that she's currently living with the father to one of her other children.
That's correct.
And have you observed her in that home?
I have.
And is there anything in that home with that relationship that causes you any concerns?
The home, no. I know that the youngest child, there was a CPS case regarding her youngest child.
Okay. And she was incarcerated during that case also.
Yes.
And that child was placed with that child's father, who Caitlin is now living with.
Yes.
Okay. And so she's got stable housing. Does she have any employment?
She does.
Well, do you know where she's working?
She works at the Holiday Inn.
In Pampa?
No, sir. Here in Amarillo, out by the airport.
Okay. And is she attending counseling sessions?
Yes, sir. She's got them scheduled. I believe her first one happened in April.
Did she discuss with you that there had been some counseling sessions that she attended while she was incarcerated?
Yes, sir. But like Haley stated, it wasn't something that we were sure St. Francis would consider. So we went ahead and did the counseling through Jennings once she was released.
And is she taking any parenting classes?
She completed a parenting class, and I have the certificate from when she completed it while she was incarcerated.
You said there was an RBT, which is reasonable behavior training. Did she do an RBT class?
She was scheduled to do RBT last Thursday, but there was an issue with the authorization on our end for payment. I'm not sure if that was cleared up and she was able to log on at a later time. Okay, she was. So she should have completed that last Thursday then.
Okay. You talked about a domestic violence awareness class. Now,
Yes,
Mr. Ramirez has been involved in domestic violence and relationships in her past. Is that what your understanding is?
Yes, that's my understanding.
And so it's important that you do a domestic violence awareness class.
Yes, sir. I think it was a domestic violence support group. And Caitlin is aware of where she can go for those. And then I think it's also being addressed during her counseling.
Okay. Have you had an opportunity to observe Ms. Ramirez with Carter?
I have personally not. Our FSW is the one who oversees those visits.
And in your reports from your FSW, were there any concerns raised in any face-to-face visits between Ms. Ramirez and Carter?
No, sir. There have been no concerns noted.
Is it your understanding that there's an obvious bond between Ms. Ramirez and Carter and that has been observed?
Yes, sir. It's been noted. And I think it's something that continues to get worked on when they have their weekly visits.
There were, after Ms. Ramirez was released from prison and prior to today's hearing, there were some additional concerns raised and a new investigation was done into the home of Mr. Herrera. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
And do you know if her investigation was completed by a Department of Family and Protective Services individual investigator?
Yes, it was.
And do you know who that investigator was?
It was Brandon Hernandez.
Okay. And I've got Mr. Hernandez's subpoena, so I'll ask him about that investigation. But as far as you know, there's not any concerns that were raised by that investigation.
No, sir.
Today, what is the recommendation of St. Francis Ministries concerning Carter?
We're recommending that she remain in the home of Nathan. So PMC to Nathan, and then possessory to Caitlin, and then a stepped visitation schedule with an agreed upon place for the transferring of Carter.
Do you know how often the visitation currently is between Caitlin and Carter?
So it was weekly. For the first 2 weeks, I believe we did visitations. It was an hour, but we have bumped those up to 2 hours. And that's been the case for the last 2 weeks or so.
If the court follows your recommendation and names and leaves Carter with Mr. Herrera and allows Mr. Herrera's visitation, are you asking for the department to be dismissed at this time?
Yes.
And do you believe your recommendation for Carter is in Carter's best interest?
Yes.
I'll pass it with Ms. Shaw.
All right, thank you, Ms. Archer.
Ms. Brown, has Mr. Herrera moved homes during this case?
Yes, ma'am.
How many times?
I am not sure. I know at least once.
Okay. Do you know why?
I do not.
Okay. Has he recently been fired from a job?
There's a little bit of miscommunication there as far as whether he was fired or he quit.
Did the department look into that?
I've called the previous employer and I haven't heard back.
Does Mr. Herrera have other kids?
Yes.
Does he have access to those children?
No.
Okay. Why is that?
I believe the previous history of domestic allegations and other allegations like that.
Does that raise any concerns with the department?
I am focused on now. So as far as Carter's concerned, no, I have not witnessed any abuse towards her or the girlfriend that he currently resides with.
Is he currently on probation?
I'm not sure.
But you know my client's criminal history, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And there's never been any drug issues in this case, correct?
In this case, no, ma'am.
With either parent?
In this case, no.
Okay. Would you agree that my client, Caitlin's done a lot of services in a short amount of time?
Yes, I would.
And she's kind of gone over and above, correct, by doing them in prison and then getting out and completing everything she's done. Is that right?
Yes.
And there was no allegation that Caitlin has ever abused or neglected Carter, correct?
That's correct.
Or her new baby, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
The department just had to get involved because of her incarceration. True?
Yes.
Okay. And the department isn't concerned at all about the new baby in her house, correct?
No, ma'am, I haven't witnessed any concerns.
Okay. Have you been to Caitlin's home?
I have.
Okay. Is it appropriate for Carter to come live in?
Yes, it's appropriate for a child to live in, yes.
Okay. So do you see any reason why Carter could not be raised by both parents equally?
I don't. My only concern is that she has only been out of prison for 6 weeks or so. Just I would like to see more stability before it was considered to be joint.
How much time would that take to make the department feel comfortable?
Usually we would like to see 6 months of stability.
Do you know how old her current baby is? Her little one?
I think he's a year, just about a year.
I'll pass the witness.
All right, thank you. Mr. Maris, if you could please try to stay still. You're bouncing all around and it's kind of distracting, I guess is a way to put it. So
I apologize, Your Honor. She was in my office and that she has her little one with her and I just couldn't hear. So she went to her car.
I mean, that's fine. I just, if she could kind of sit still and not move the camera around so much. So, all right, Mr. Michelson, questions?
Thank you, Your Honor. With respect to a stable home, you indicated that she was residing with someone. Who does she reside with?
She resides with her boyfriend, Cody Newton.
Okay. And do you know or are you aware of any pending felony charges with Cody?
Yes, Haley told me that he had pending charges when I got the case from her in March.
And do you know what those charges are?
I do not.
Okay. And you indicated she's been out of prison for.
And Pearson is in the waiting room, so I'll get her in. He or she.
Go ahead, Judge.
I guess I couldn't hear. Did anybody else hear? Okay. Maybe it's me. Yeah, you can go. You can proceed.
Okay. Ms. Pearson, do you supervise visitation with Caitlin and Carter?
Yes.
And how are those visitations going?
They're going well.
Would you say that Carter is bonded with Mom?
Yes.
Have you noted any concerns in those visits?
Concerns regarding
with Mom and Carter?
No, I don't have any concerns.
Do you supervise visits with Nathan and Carter?
No.
Okay. And do you even know Nathan Herrera?
I know his relationship with Carter as being her father, but outside of that, no.
Have you had any interactions with him at all?
Yes. I've had an interaction with him whenever he brought Carter to the first visit.
Did anything unusual happen at that visit?
So whenever I got the referral for the visit, it stated that I would need to transport Carter to and from the visit. Whenever I contacted Nathan, he said that he did not trust us to transport and that he would willingly transport. So we gave him permission to transport, and so he did. Whenever he arrived, our protocol is for him to drop the child off and leave, but he was adamant about staying, and he said that he would leave, and kind of his tone and his demeanor was a bit like verbally aggressive. And so I asked him again to leave, and I stated, if you don't leave, I can call the police. And he just told me he would park down the street or something like that. So I told him if he parked down the street that was fine, but he could not hang out in front of the visitation house.
Did you find that pretty unusual in your experience?
I would consider it unusual because I've never had that encounter with a parent before.
I'll pass the witness.
All right, Mr. Alley.
I don't have any questions, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Michelson.
Thank you. That was Mr. Herrera's first encounter with you. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And do you communicate with Courtney, the caseworker, regarding those visits?
Yes.
Okay. And did Mr. Herrera tell you that he had permission from Courtney to do that?
Initially, he did. And then I called her and she said that she think that it was a misunderstanding.
Okay. And so that was his first visit. Did you get the sense that he was a nervous parent or he was unfamiliar and a little scared about the process?
No, it was his tone and like the things that he was verbalizing that kind of made me concerned.
Did he make any threats to you?
No, he did not.
Okay. Did you have any further problems with him on future visits?
No, only because
Okay.
That was his only time transporting, or he did a second time, but it was we kind of corrected it, and I spoke with him before the second visit, and he apologized the second visit for his behavior the first time, and then after that he didn't transport again.
Okay. So whatever problem there was, he amended it. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. No further questions.
All right. Ms. Pearson, are you still supervising Ms. Ramirez's visits?
Yes.
What's her current visitation schedule now?
It's every week on Wednesdays from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Okay. All right. Thank you, ma'am. All right.
Yes.
Anyone else have follow-ups?
No, sir.
No.
All right. Can Ms. Pearson be excused?
Yes.
No objection.
All right. Ms. Pearson, thank you for your testimony. I'll remove you so you can go about your afternoon's business.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Uh-huh. All right. Ms. Archer, any other witnesses?
No witnesses, Judge. I'd like closing when it's time.
Okay. Mr. Michelson, witnesses.
No witnesses, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Barfield.
No witnesses, sir.
All right. All right, then. Let's start with Mr. Barfield, recommendations.
My recommendation is that Nathan Herrera be named primary managing conservator, or that the department be dismissed, that Caitlin Ramirez be named possessory conservator of the child. I have no objection to a step-up visitation plan. And for the court's knowledge, I think we can move fairly quickly, make some unsupervised, and move forward with that. But I think that would be in the best interest of the child. I see no reason to move her.
I'm sorry, you see no reason to what?
To change the circumstances of her primary residence.
Okay. What about a recommendation as to any child support or medical support?
I would recommend child support set at minimum wage levels and health insurance reimbursement, $50 per month, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Casa, any recommendations?
Your Honor, we agree with Mr. Barfield. We certainly don't believe that it's in Carter's best interest to be moved at this time.
Okay.
She's been doing well and stable with her dad, and we believe it's in her best interest to stay there.
All right. Ms. Archer, you wanted some closing argument?
Judge, my client was just wanting me to ask for joint managing conservatorship. She feels like she had Carter before any of this started. When Mr. Herrera wasn't even in the child's life, and now he is, and that's fine. She's accepted that. But she would like to co-parent with him. You know, all the parties in this case have criminal history, so I'd ask that not be held against her. And her OSAR is June 9th, so she's almost completed everything.
Okay. Ms. Brown, if you'd unmute. If you could, and if you can't tell me that, but could you send the court what you would recommend as what we've called a stepped up visitation?
Yes, sir. I can do that.
Okay. And I did find at least what I know of that most lawyers use around here is what we call a modified visitation, which is a stepped up. But I'd like to compare it before I make a ruling. So if you could circulate that to all the parties and get it to my office, then I will make my ruling then. So, and once I'll do it just as soon as I can come up with a visitation plan, and then I'll notify everybody by email. So, okay, that was our last hearing for the day. So we will stand in recess. Thank you for your time, and y'all have a good rest of your week. Have a good weekend.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thanks.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jody.
Sure. Thank you.
Okay.